Good morning, everyone. I'm going to cut you off right there, Mr. Boone. I'm sorry. Would like to call this meeting to order, the TPO. One of the things, just quick housekeeping item, if you want to talk today, we have new audio system in front of you. You will need to hit the person speaking, and the red light will come on in order to talk today. So with that, Dallas, do we have a quorum today?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. Let's start over here with Rich for introductions. Go ahead.
Rich DeGrosser, Lakeway Area, MTPO.
Troy Ebert with TPOt. I'm here for Michelle today.
Tanner Charles, Knoxville Area Transit.
Patrick Berg, Oak Ridge.
Larry Gann, City of Clinton.
Deanna Flincham, Knoxville Commuter Pool.
Blake Sarden, Metro Knoxville Airport Authority.
Jim Snow, Knox County.
Jack Qualls, Loudoun County, City of Loudoun.
Doug Burton with the TPO. I'm also sitting in for Amy Brooks today.
Brian Boone, City of Maryville Engineering and Public Works.
Dakota Gentry, City of Alcoa.
James Temple, Sevier County.
Dallas DeArmond, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Laura Smith, East Tennessee Development District.
Beth Collins, Lenore City.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone on Zoom today?
We do not.
Okay, moving on. Amendments to the agenda. Is there any amendments to the agenda today? Okay, seeing none. We're gonna forego the list of common used acronyms if it's okay with everyone. Item number 2, the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? If so, I'd like a motion to approve.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, Transportation Planning Work Program Amendment. TDOT staff.
I'll take this. This was a work program amendment submitted by Loudoun to do a transportation plan. The request on the front of the agenda is incorrect. If you look back at the attachment 3, you'll see there is a one-page description of the City of Loudoun Major Thoroughfare and Transportation Master Plan, what they propose to do. They're actually requesting $125,000 total from the TPO. That's comprised of 85% of our federal funds and 80% of our federal funds and 5% of the TDOT match, and then they'll put up a 15% local match. So the whole total is $125,000, and that's correct on the attachment. There was just a last-second adjustment. In our work program, we had allocated about $635,000 for different planning studies, and this is always open to any city or jurisdiction that is interested. So if y'all approve this, it still leaves over $500,000 that y'all could come back in and request if y'all have something come up in your own city or jurisdiction. But otherwise, the staff has no issue with this, but we do need to have a motion to approve it, to send it to the executive board to amend the work program.
Okay, any questions so far?
Is this a new plan or an updated plan?
It's a new plan. Their major thoroughfare plan is probably 30 years old, so this is really taking in consideration a lot of the future developments taking place down there as well.
Gotcha. Thanks, sir.
Sir. Any more? All right.
You already have an RFQ for this?
I think they do, but I will not say yes or no.
I'm pretty sure we probably have to do an RFP.
Did you say we would have to do one, or we already have one?
No, do you already have one? I was wondering if you have one and when y'all plan on rolling it out. We can advertise.
I don't think.
I don't think the deadline's been set yet.
Okay.
I know the city's portion has been approved. Okay. Any more questions? Call for a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
A second?
Second.
Motion a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, fiscal year 2023-2026, TIP project cost overrun. Mr. Craig.
That would be me. Thank y'all. This is the first project cost overrun in the STBG program since the cost overrun policy was established with the development of this current tip. We did have one a couple of months ago for the CMAC program for a project for Oak Ridge. Again, this is the first in the LSTBG program, which is that larger lion's share of our locally programmed funds. I'll give you a little bit of a general information about what the project is going on, and then what's being requested for the added changes. And Brian Boone is here from Oak Ridge, from Maryville, able to speak to that as well. And just as a little preface, this also, the cost overrun leads into our next item, which is a TIP amendment to incorporate that cost overrun, should it be approved, and move that forward for approval of the executive board. So this is the Carpenter's Grade Road widening and intersection improvements, reconstructing the road there. As you see it there, constructing a signalized intersection at Peterson Lane, Cochran Road, and Ralston Road intersection, again, City of Maryville. The most recent cost estimate, as all of us here in the room are probably aware, those things are coming in pretty high, so this isn't a scope change. It really is just cost items and things of that nature, inflation that we are dealing with across the board. The current programming that you see, $4.74 million programmed for construction in fiscal '24. They're anticipating that letting early next year. The funding request is for $8.4 million in LSTBG. That is the total program, not the 80-20 portion, but the 100% funding cost programming. That increases a request of $3.66 million on the LSTBG program. And then it is a 32.6% increase on the total project cost. You may recall that the cost overrun standards that we included was if a project cost overrun is requesting more than 25% of the total project cost, or increasing the federal share of LSTBG funding more than $500,000, then that does require approval from this committee. Of course, this does trigger both of those standards. Again, that total cost construction, $8.4 million and $6.7 in LSTBG. Total project cost just under $10 million. Quickly, the overall status, just kind of a snapshot of where we are with the programming. This does, and Brian did correct me, I apologize, there's one error that I have on this. They've proposed kind of some options for where we may be able to recoup some of this. So the federal request that's being requested, again, $2.9 million. You may recall that the congressionally directed funding assigned some programming funds to various projects in this area, one of which is a project in Maryville, and that congressionally directed funding is $1.5 million, so we kind of recoup about half of that within this community straight off the top. That figure is reflected in pending TIP programming on this number that actually would be 4.5 million, not 5 million. So the remaining TIP period balance, let me correct this slide here, would be $7.1 million, not 10.1, or not 7, would be $7.6 million, not 7.1. I need to add an additional $500,000 to that. I apologize for kind of meandering around those numbers a bit. And also, at the starting point here, that projected available balance would be 10.6, not 10.1. So this would utilize about, call it 26%, 25% of the currently projected funding, rather than 29% of the currently projected funding. Of course, we do have some other anticipated relief within the program that we're hopeful we'll get some answers on the statewide partnership program. Cannot speculate on what those may be at this point, but we would anticipate some other relief. Brian has indicated some other, as we move further down the line on this, if we need to make additional adjustments, they are able to defer other phases of projects potentially as needed. We're not making any of those changes at this point, but they're amenable to that being a possibility as we continue to have further cost increases on potentially other projects down the line, understanding that this is first in line. I'm going to stop talking for a moment. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
Brian, do you have any?
Yeah, everybody wants to be the trailblazer that tries out the new policy, right? So why wouldn't I be the one to step up and do that? I think everybody agrees with the idea that we put some things in place to try to make sure we don't have overruns that take us out of bounds, so to speak. Part of what we all wrestle with are these changing market values that, something 3 or 4 years ago that you would have said, that's a $3 million project all day long. And you fast forward to today and it's very easily a $5 or $6 million project. And a lot of that's what's happened here. It's not a scope creep, but, you take things like stone and asphalt that you've estimated during the development of a project with estimating tools and spreadsheets and unit price, cost estimating tools. Those are good for about as long as they are on paper. So, what I would tell you, for example, like on this project, base stone, I would have said base stone would cost you $20 to $25 a ton all day long. And our construction estimate from our consulting firm now is at $35 a ton. And even that, I'm not sure is going to be, the number that we end up with, but that's $500,000 in base stone on a project like this. And it doesn't take very long to add up asphalt, concrete, stone, and things like that. So like Craig said, this is a project that we know we want to do. We want to get it led into construction. So we will do whatever we need to do. Now that we have a construction estimate from our engineer, and now that we're close to that phase, we will look for every opportunity to make sure we put something out there. But I think any of us that have projects that are in the pipeline that are going through right away and ready to go into construction, what we may have estimated during the TIP preparation, I think we're all prepared that it isn't just your typical 5 to 10% overage. It turns into 20 to 30% really quick. For instance, we all look at CEI as part of that construction amount. Well, every time that construction amount goes from 5 million to 7 million, you're estimating CEI at 15%. It compounds that 15% as well. So it really does not take long to snowball you into a place where you're $2.9 million over what you said you'd need to do a project. So I'm happy to answer any questions about this project in particular, but I am pretty confident to say that I feel like, these are the kinds of conversations we all need to have with each other, especially, Craig, going forward. I think it's not going to relent anytime soon. And this is the first of what I expect to be several conversations about what do we do when we run into a situation where there isn't enough money to go where it needs to go. You mentioned the statewide partnership program. I've got high hopes for that because I think that's the gesture that I think that the local governments have been looking for projects that have state route involvement or TDOT involvement. I think a partnership to do those is exactly the right answer.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
As I said, this is kind of that big picture coming out of this. With this approval, we would have roughly $7.6 million, not that bottom right cell that says 7.1 right now. We'd have roughly $7.6 million kind of remaining in this pot at this point with anticipated existing programming and pending TIP program that's still kind of folding some items back in that did not get carried forward that we're trying to work through the program. I know we got a substantial right-of-way cost for one of City of Knoxville's projects. It still needs to get folded back in as a modification to an existing project. That's the lion's share of that $5 million that you see in pending TIP programming there.
And that's part of the conversation too, isn't it? I mean, everybody looks at Zillow and everybody realizes in the last 2 to 3 years what home prices have done. This project is an example of that too. Something that you would have thought you could acquire slope easement, construction easement, and some drainage easement for $5,000. It ends up being 10 or 12.
Yeah.
And it's just really, we'll look back on this period of time in history, I hope, and just scratch our heads and go, that was a roller coaster ride.
What I would also anticipate we will see as we continue to move through time, of course, now we're in fiscal 24, now that we're into October, as we start to get into these later time periods, we'll end up with phases that likely can be shifted out of this TIP, and that's probably going to be a conversation. As much as we want to obligate things on time and get there, that may be part of the solution as well. If something legitimately isn't going to obligate in fiscal 26, when we get out there, if we're having a cost overrun on a phase that is ready to move forward, then that conversation can be with that agency, hey, let's shift, phase X out of the TIP, and that gives us some programming headspace there.
Craig, I know you've been meeting with the locals about doing the quarterly updates with the projects and the TIP. I mean, do you foresee I know you don't have a crystal ball, but do you foresee any more projects being led to construction this year that may also need some of these funds?
Surely there are some. I do not have that off the top of my head right now what that would be. We'll be meeting again here and, at the end of this quarter, so January will be our next opportunity to have that discussion and say, okay, what's queued up in letting, and we will, be having conversations. Hopefully people will be going through the exercise that Brian's just done, updating their estimates and doing this,
Yeah. So, any more questions?
If there are none, in light of that conversation and looking at the big picture and having this ready to go, we do recommend approval of this cost overrun request.
Staff recommendation, do we have a motion to approve the request?
Anyone?
Jack, I make a motion to approve that.
Okay, I've got a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. I've got a motion and a second there.
It's tough.
Is there any more discussion that needs to take place? Someone? All right, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Item number 5, fiscal year 2023-2026 TIP amendment. Craig, you're back at bat.
Yep, and this is, again, following on that increased cost overrun request. This is essentially proposing then to fold that increased funding into the TIP, again, for the Carpenter's Grade Road project. It's an existing air quality exempt project, adding the funding that we just discussed, $3.66 million total and 2.9 and some change in LSTBG funding. Again, same project. Maryville, revising the construction funding as per the approved cost overrun request and bringing that up to $8.4 million in construction funding in fiscal '24. And we do recommend approval of that project amendment, and that is also part of the amendment process is reaffirmation of the Metropolitan Transportation Planning process as well.
Is there any questions for Craig? Can I get a motion to approve? I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah. Get a second.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, 2020 Census Adjustment Urbanized Area and Metropolitan Planning Area Boundary Updates. TPO staff.
That's going to be me as well. Mike has been here talking to you a bit about this process, something that kind of comes out following out of the census every 10 years. The urbanized area boundaries and subsequent to that, the metropolitan planning boundaries are then revised based on the information that comes out of the census. Some background that you've probably heard before, Census Bureau released the official notice announcing the qualifying urban areas from the 2020 census, December 29th, 2022. They are delineated through a very complex process that analyzes housing unit density. That is a change from previous past when it was based on population. They've gone to a process they feel like housing density is a more appropriate measure they're applying right now. Major changes as well as that change from the previous delineation was in reducing the jump distance across less densely populated areas. Previously was 2.5 miles. That's being reduced down to 1.5 miles. There are implications for that change here regionally that we'll talk about, and that did reduce that distance. It basically split out Tellico Village and Seymour from the previous urban area that didn't include those all in one contiguous area. They are now their own independent urban areas. This process does start the clock for reassessing the planning area boundaries. The base minimum area that is included is the Knoxville urban area at a minimum. Here is the 2020 census urban area. You'll see the separate Sevierville Pigeon Forge area there in yellow, and then the base census urban area for Knoxville. And it does include, you'll see there in blue, Tellico down in the lower left and Seymour in the lower right are all included in that single contiguous area. and the 2020 census urban area. Some slight changes that you will see there. And now with that reduction in the jump area, Tellico Village and Seymour are their own independent areas and not contiguous with the larger Knoxville urban area. And again, Sevierville, we kind of anticipated as a general rules, we've moved through these census areas with additional growth. We've kind of expanded that urban area. That change to the jump distance this year really kind of went in the opposite direction and contracted the overall urban area, although there is greater population in the area. Let's see here. What am I looking at? This map shows the current MPA area in light orange in relation to the base urban areas. The urban area that sets the population, that does dictate the federal funding that we have coming into the region. That is the base for that, and the extended or planning area does not have any additional funding that comes with that, but the planning area is that base area plus additional areas anticipated to be urbanized within 20 years. The additional step that kind of comes in that Mike's been working on, the adjusted or smooth urban area, is developed in coordination with TDOT and Federal Highway. And that primarily is to kind of smooth out the boundaries so you don't have kind of hopping back and forth between urban, non-urban, and as it relates to federal functional classification. There's some changes there. That really is the only kind of trickle-down effect there, but trying to keep the boundary being less jagged with little small outliers and things. Once you have done that, the second step is to establish the planning area. This is the first time that the urban area did not expand to take in new voting members. Recall with the last time we took in Oak Ridge, certainly. The area, I will point out, the top of the map, the new blue area up there, we did come up to take Norris. That population center, though, does not have more than 5,000 population, so it will not be a voting member, but they are in the base urban area, so by default will definitely be in the planning area. Following on that, kind of the next things that will happen here, that proposed adjusted urban area. Mike, again, has been working on this, again, smoothing that area to fill in gaps and jagged boundaries. Again, also urban and rural status for functional classification. Includes the base area and a single contiguous area. It should also incorporate large traffic generators within a reasonable distance. ORNL is certainly the major one that you'll see here that otherwise is not populated because of the nature of that facility. We have developed those proposed urban boundaries for the adjoining areas as well, Tellico, Sevierville, and the Seymour urban area there in consultation with TDOT and Federal Highway. Those are currently being reviewed by them and waiting on formal comments. The proposed metropolitan planning area then, again, must include all of that adjusted area. We have had conversations with TDOT as well as Mike has reached out to Seymour and folks down in Loudon to talk about whether we keep Tellico Village or Seymour within the planning area. The anticipation is that we would keep them in. We would bring in any population greater than 5,000 that is touched by the urban area. That doesn't have any implications this year. The voting members would stay the same. No change in that because of the Norris being under the general standard. And then also one other factor that Mike takes when he looks in is trying to align the boundaries with census plot group boundaries. They're shown in red there on the map. Those kind of facilitate collecting American Community Survey data that comes out periodically just for reporting purposes. Certainly is easier. The next steps. TPO staff will continue meeting with individual jurisdictions to verify the metropolitan planning area boundary. Again, reviewing the need for updated roadway functional classifications from each jurisdiction. We started that conversation. Again, those formal comments from both TDOT and Federal Highway, and making a final determination on what to do with Tellico Village and Seymour status, including their potential STBG as the urban area. They would have STBG funding that is dedicated to those locations. As we understand it, if they are not within the planning area, they actually wouldn't be able to receive those allocations because they are not incorporated local public agency eligible. So that kind of the benefit of keeping them in is that those funds can be incorporated here into the region. Main deadline to formally adopt the adjusted urban area, December 29th, 2023. Ideally, we'd also like to adopt the MPA boundary and any roadway functional classification changes at the same time. Functional class was a little bit of larger conversations. I think Mike's indicated that may be a trailing indicator, but ideally we would put all of that kind of at the same time coming back in December. And that was a lot of data out there, questions and comments, and kind of a last, kind of give you the takeaway on where the population growth is. As we all know, that's been growing as well. The 2020 base census urban area was just under 600,000. The proposed total MPA population in the new one is 725,000. So that kind of gives you an indication between the base urban area and then that additional area that's taken in, you know, another 125,000 outside of the base urban area.
So, Mr. Chairman, we've gone ahead and we've done our first phase review with TDOT. And it's now going up to our roadway data folks. They're the ones who are looking at the functional class and a few things like that. But we've already done the smoothing. We didn't have a lot of comments on what came through for Knoxville. It looked really good. And we have a meeting set up with those folks Friday. So we're going to discuss, make sure all the MPOs in our region is good to go and where we're at. At that point, we will send comments back to the MPOs, which will be in a spreadsheet form, which you can just respond back on that, and once we're good, you know, some of them were just questions, other ones were, you know, you make sure we include this little intersection type thing. They're more mapping errors if there was anything, real minor stuff. Once we get those back, then we'll forward those up Federal Highway and get that rolling. Hopefully we'll have those ready for everyone's approval we'll have them ready for approval this fall.
So question, will local jurisdictions have the opportunity to modify their functional classification still as part of this, or is this kind of, we're past that now?
Oh, no, we're still early.
Okay.
So, you know, if something comes through and if it's in or out, we'll make that change. On the functional class in general for the entire region, TDOT's also looking at all the functional class across the region.
Okay.
Outside of what we're doing here, to make updates. So we'll be looking at that as well for everybody.
Okay, thank you.
And I know Mike is, in an ideal world, he would roll up all those functional class changes in this timeline process. If that doesn't quite get there with everybody, then we'll continue to work with the local agencies and TDOT on getting that done, kind of a postscript to this process with its dedicated timeline.
So instead of doing it the way we did it last time, which was, here, Jack, here's a list of everything that we changed, it's going to be approved at the same time that we do all this through Federal Highway. They're just going to run it and go.
Okay.
So it should be a little easier.
Sounds easier. Any more questions or comments? All right, let's move on. No action needed. Item number 7 is TDOT Transportation Funding Database Overview. TDOT Region 1 staff.
Yay. So what you're seeing on the screen is what we're calling the Transportation Funding Database. This is not just for TDOT programs. This is for anything as far as agency-wise that you can look at that has funding related to transportation. AARP, ARC, ECD, the Railroad Administration. There's funding in here for all sorts of fun stuff. TDEC, you know, their big one is the build in motion. We have the Tennessee Department of Health. They're the ones that are a lot of times doing the match money, $50,000 on some of these. Of course, you got TDOT in here. Now you can search by any one of these. You can also come over here and search by category. So if you want to look at something specific for automated vehicles, bridge construction, bike ped, this is always a fun one. You can click on that. It will auto-generate everything down here that is eligible. Now, there's two sides of this you need to make sure you do. So you see all the information here that has what you can do. So there's your CMAQ information, there's the Healthy Built Environment from Tennessee Department of Health I was speaking about. You've got Jeff Roth, all these different programs. Here's a multimodal access grant that everyone loves. But at that point, you just scroll across the bottom screen here, and it will give you the total amount that you can put in for, the match information, who's eligible for it. You know, this is the category, what it is, and then it also gives you a link to the website. So you really want to check out and look at what's going on for the multimodal grant. You can click on that, it takes you right to it. So you don't have to go dig and mine and start looking for this information. So basically, anything that's transportation related that we have as of right now can be searched for through this database. If you're done with bike ped stuff, you just hit this clear button. Brings you back, you have everything to go for, and you can go back and say you knew that Tennessee Department of Health had some, or ECD had something specific, you couldn't remember what it was. Oh, there it is, the CDGB stuff. Again, information with websites, all the information's there. Very searchable, very fast, very efficient way to do this. If you see something that we missed, if you see anything that's wrong, if you get a link that's in there that's incorrect, let us know. You can click here. By clicking that, a form pops up. You can fill out the information that we can go through, and we can make sure that that's updated and fixed. This one here just basically is telling you to reach out to your OCT staff, which is going to be Michelle or myself. And that's just contact information. But we'll make sure that the MPO gets this, put it in the minutes and share with the group. If you want to put links on your websites to it, you're more than welcome to. I've got a link actually on my phone where I can just pop that thing up at any point. Someone's asking a question, I can either show it to them or we can go through and look at things. Very, very, very powerful tool. There's a lot of money in this database, and you can be able to track all the information down on this. Any questions on this?
When's it gonna go live?
Huh?
Is it live yet, or when's
It
it
is
gonna go
live.
Okay.
Yeah, it's up and rocking and it's ready to go.
It's impressive.
I was very happy with it. Before, we were doing flyers and we would put some QR codes and a few things together, and we had all those, and then Michelle just got tired of dealing with that always changing. So with this, and of course this went through all our folks at TPOt, because you got to go up the food chain and make sure everyone's happy with it, with our outreach folks, and this is what we ended up coming up with. So please use it. Please share it with your staff. Share it with everyone. Somebody called saying, you know, I've shared it with individuals who call and say, hey, how do I get a sidewalk in front of my house? Well, there's lots of different ways. You know, here are some options. Take this solution with you when you go to your elected official, or you go to your planning boards, or whoever you're looking at, to say, hey, this is what we want. These are some ways to get it. Because when you have a problem and you come with a solution, of course, it's a lot better situation typically. And I've shared this with all sorts of elected officials. I've shared it, and you know, Michelle and I are pushing it out through TAPA. We push it out through ITE. Any professional organization that you have, send it. If you've got boards or Rotary clubs or anything like that wants to see something like that, we can come give a 15-minute presentation like this, talking about it if you want it, or just send it to them. I mean, once you play with it for about 5 or 10 minutes, you'll have the gist of it. It's not going to take you long. So very user-friendly. But the biggest thing is, if you see something wrong, let us know, and we'll make it right. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, unless there's another question on this.
All right, any more questions? Comments? Thank you, sir. Item number 8, TDOT and FHWA updates. Any more updates from TDOT?
We're still working on projects. Things are still moving through. You know, we've had a lot of changes coming down the pipe with IPD. We're still filling staff members at the state level here. I can tell you that all the projects that are in the 3-year plan right now, that are active projects, are being run by John Barrett. And you all should know John. If you have an active project, you've seen him or you've been on one of his projects. The rest of them are still being filled. Hopefully we'll have more information come this fall, between November and December, on where we're at, where we're going, that sort of thing.
Okay, great, thank you. Item number 9, other business.
The only thing we have on here is just our next upcoming meetings. The executive board is on October 25th here in the small assembly room at 9 a.m. And then the next technical committee will be November 14th at 9 a.m. That's all we have as far as other businesses right now.
I will note that we are anticipating that technical committee meeting may be a workshop related to the mobility plan. If there are no pressing actions for action items at the November meeting, we may move in that direction. That's our tentative plan right now,
Yep. Thank you for reminding me.
at this same time.
Okay, great. Number 10, public comments.
So, Mr. Chairman, I did want
Oh,
to.
sorry.
I'm sorry. One thing about the mobility plan that we've done, Lakeway and the Lakeway MPO is also doing theirs at the same time, so we did a joint project between the two of them, so we'll see how that goes. That should be exciting. So we have one consultant doing both of them, which should help with travel costs and a few things like that. But they will be going on simultaneously. They're gonna be independent of each other, but with the same group at the same time. So they will be kind of tied together as far as timing goes, so Rich will be involved with that. Of course, that helps. The reasons we do those type of things is because the air quality component that goes along with it. And, I mean, that's the biggest factor. And then they can share costs and do a few things with modeling and some stuff like that, so.
Thank you. Got another question over here?
Yeah, so when you said staffing, it just reminded me, a couple of weeks ago, we lost another TDOT Region 1 local programs rep in Aaron Rakes. I just wondered if we had any idea about how soon it would be before we got a replacement.
So what I have seen on that, I have not officially heard from local programs, but what I have seen on that is they are currently advertising for Taylor Lee's position, who Aaron worked for. Right now, local programs are still up and running. Kim and Kimry Grant is our main contact. She's the manager and runs that program. So I can provide another email address for that as well, and make sure that you all stay in contact until we get our new person in place to replace Erin. Now, Erin didn't go far. She's still at TDOT, but she's no longer with local programs. But I've been told, that, and I heard an announcement this summer that there's big changes coming from local programs, and we're still waiting to hear what those changes are. Don't know if we're gonna have somebody local or what exactly is gonna happen related with that, but I think they're moving in the right directions. They have a lot of projects on their plate, and Taylor was over 1 and 3, and Aaron was just over Knoxville. And they had well over 150 projects between them. And our counterparts in other states average 15 to 20-ish projects per person. So we're definitely pushing to try to bring that down and help everybody out and keep things moving. But if you have a question, don't hesitate to reach out, talk to them, and just kind of keep going that direction.
Any more other business? All right. Number 10, public comment. Did anyone sign up for public comment today? Seeing none, could I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right. Thank you.